This is the Koenigsegg Jesko. It sells for $3 million. But here's the brutal truth they don't want you to know. The first ever Koenigsegg prototype, the one that proved the concept could even exist, was built inside a chicken coop. Not a fancy warehouse. Not a former factory. A literal abandoned chicken coop. You heard that right. The most advanced hypercar on the planet started life next to a pile of hay. He launched Koenigsegg in 1994 with a few $100,000 from scraped-together capital, loans, and early trading profits. And today, the company is valued at well over $200 million. The man who built the world's most innovative supercar empire never went to engineering school. His first car design was sketched in Microsoft Paint. And at age 5, a Norwegian stop-motion film rewired his brain to believe a bicycle repairman could beat Ferrari. Then continue with the tinkering details. By 19, he's running a trading hustle. Frozen chickens to Estonia, misprinted bags by the ton. Not glamorous, but profitable. Then comes a painful lesson. In 1991, Christian von Koenigsegg devised a system to join wooden floorboards without glue or nails, enabling the planks to click together. He called it Click. He showed it to his father-in-law, who owned a flooring factory in Belgium, but was rejected. Other manufacturers turned him down as well. Then, in 1995, Christian watches it appear under someone else's name. Two companies, one Belgian, one Swedish, patented a click-together flooring system that Koenigsegg says was exactly like his. Even the name was the same. Click. Today, click-lock flooring is a multi-billion-dollar industry. A billion-dollar idea slips away from him. Most people would retreat, but he doubles down. The bottom line is crystal clear. If you want zero gatekeepers, you build the gate. August 1994, 22 years old. He decides the impossible is the only plan worth trying. He opens Windows 3.11, pulls up Paint, and starts sketching. Not Alias, not Katia. Paint. He emails rough lines, tweaks, arrows, move this, cut that, fast, iterative, relentless. He founds Koenigsegg Automotive AB. No factory, no supplier pipeline, just a stubborn premise. A compact mid-engine supercar with short overhangs, a wraparound windshield, and a removable roof. It's scrappy, but it's decisive. Get this, he still uses Paint to mark up ideas for his engineers because speed of feedback beats polish. He starts studying the shapes that matter. F40's function, McLaren F1's purity, GT40's stance. With industrial designer David Crawford, he builds a 1:5 clay. The proportions lock in. 2 meters wide for racing regs. A cockpit at 70% of width for drag, a wheelbase that will define the brand for years. It isn't just art, it's a loophole map. He's designing a road car with Le Mans rules in its bones. That decision will matter later. Money's thin, so he takes a government tech loan on the condition he moves to a high unemployment zone. He relocates to a small garage, then a bigger spot near Engelholm. Suppliers trickle in. Saab engineers drop by with engine management advice. Volvo trades wind tunnel time. Meanwhile, Christian's scavenging the rulebook for advantage. If he can't buy expertise, he'll borrow wind and build the rest. 1996. The first prototype fires. Carbon floor, steel box sections, hand-laid bodywork shaped by 4 guys in faith. It's rough, but it runs. Rickard Rydell drives it in public. The response is bigger than the budget. A year later, it appears at the Cannes Film Festival. Dihedral doors, removable roof, carbon everywhere. And Koenigsegg shows up like a rumor made real. Kjell Nilsson, former Electrolux 5P, signs on as chairman, opens doors money can't. Suddenly, this isn't a fantasy garage, it's a fledgling manufacturer with momentum. Here's where it gets hard. Certification drains cash. Crash tests, emissions, braking, lighting, it's a checklist designed to crush startups. He keeps going. In 2000, the CC8S debuts in Paris. By 2002, the first customer cars roll out. Only 6 are built, but the message is unmistakable. 655 horsepower, officially crowned by Guinness as the most powerful production car in the world. February 2003. A fire tears through the original factory. Equipment is dragged to safety, but sketches, childhood drawings, years of ideas disappear in the smoke. Still, the show must go on. The team relocates to an ex-Air Force hangar in Engelholm, a place once home to a ghost emblem worn by jets that took off before dawn and returned unseen. The crew asks if the ghost can live again. Christian says yes. From that moment on, every car built there carries the ghost. It's not a sticker, it's a promise. We're heard, not always seen. He could have dialed back, chased safe margins, sold the company, but he did the opposite. That's the spark. A cartoon dream. A frozen chicken bankroll. A stolen flooring idea. A burnt factory, a ghost on the hood, and a Windows Paint sketch that wouldn't stay two-dimensional. From here, the records start. But before the world records comes the hardest record of all, surviving the jump to a world-legal US-certified supercar without selling your soul. The CC8S looked like a wild show car that slipped off a stage, but it wasn't a toy. It was a real street-legal machine built by only 25 people in a tiny shop. 6 cars total, that's all. Yet each one had 655 horsepower and a Guinness line that mattered. The most powerful production car of its time. Magazines laughed at the number. Who needs that much power? That question told you everything. Big car brands think in limits. Builders like Christian think in margins. In tiny gaps where new ideas hide. Meanwhile, Christian learned the ugly math of certification. Every crash test was a car you couldn't sell. Every emission cycle was a week you couldn't deliver. So he built around the choke points. Keep it compact. Keep the aero clean. Make the package work harder than the parts suggest. The CC8S became the blueprint. Doors that twist open like blades but with smooth manners. A roof you can lift off and store up front. Carbon used as standard, not as a fancy word in a brochure. A small team, but ideas that refuse to shrink. But the dream wasn't just to make a fast car. The dream was speed that mattered, not drag race talk. Real, checked, two-way speed. For that, you need good aero and an engine that drinks air like it wants to escape the car. That's where the CCR steps in. It looked like the CC8S after a month in the gym. Bigger brakes, new suspension, wider tires, sharper aero, but underneath it changed from calm to fierce. One supercharger became 2 spinning blowers that shoved thick, loud air into a V8, now making 806 horsepower. Another Guinness note, another stack of raised eyebrows. Here is where the plan shows its shape. They never chased ad cycles or fancy taglines. They chased physics. Christian booked time at the Nardo Ring in Italy. No long runway to relax, just a huge circle where you lean into a turn the entire time. The CCR rolled in right before the Geneva show, dust still on its belly. They went out and pushed. The speed climbed past where smart voices tell you to stop. 387.86 kilometers per hour. Over 240 miles per hour. On a circle, close to the McLaren F1, but faster. The McLaren F1 was a legend because it did huge speed the hard way. No turbos, a simple layout, and 3 seats across. Taking that crown, even by a slice, and doing it while turning meant something deep. It proved this tiny crew from Sweden could stand with giants. It also proved they refused to stall. They could have waited for a longer road. They could have talked about what the car might do someday. Instead, they ran the number, dust, bugs, and all, then rolled the same car straight into Geneva. Let people stare at the truth instead of a poster. But the CCR was more than a fast number. It shaped how Koenigsegg built things. When you craft carbon and metal in small batches, every shape matters. Every hole. Every line. The early cars were made by hand. Real hands. Sanding blocks. Simple tools. Later, when the CCR got scanned by lasers, the left and right sides matched within millimeters. Even the team was shocked. That's not luck. That's a culture of people who won't let parts leave the bench until they align with a sketch that started in paint. Meanwhile, they learned how to make heat behave. Twin superchargers generate it. High speed amplifies it. Cooling a compact mid-engine car at 240 plus is like trying to keep a candle steady in a hurricane. The team routed air through radiators that didn't ruin the drag they fought to win, shaped ducts that fed the engine without starving the brakes, and balanced lift so the car tracked true. That balance is why the CCR's Nardo run looked calm from the outside. The violence was happening inside the molecules. There was also a cost. Pushing this hard with this few people strains everyone. Parts fail. Suppliers flinch. Cash gets tight. The fire the year before had already burned their margin for error, but the Nardot number opened doors. It woke up buyers who wanted the fastest streetcar they could get. It pulled in partners who had ignored them before. It also brought critics who snapped, "It's only fast." So the team made a new rule for themselves. If someone doubts it, improve it. Make it cleaner. Make it tougher. Make it so every country will say yes. That challenge pointed to the next mountain. America! CCR became the launch pad. Twin Charger scream. Real world record muscle. Hard-won lessons baked into every mountain bracket. That mix paid the bills and proved the dream. Records were never the final goal. They were the heartbeat that kept the mission alive. They were the signal that it was time for the next step. Get certified, go worldwide, and build the CCX. While the CCR still had dust stuck in its wheel wells, reality showed up fast. If you want to play with the big names, you need to pass the America test. Crash rules, emissions rules, airbags that talk to computers your team didn't write. The CC8S and CCR were not US certified. That meant lost money and fading momentum. Watch what this forces them to do next. So Christian made a move that changed the company forever. He took the hand-shaped model, scanned it with lasers, and pulled the whole shape into a digital world. This scan will reveal something wild. The scan showed their handwork was lined up within a hair's width from side to side. That gave them the courage to stretch the shape without losing the heart of it. The result was the CCX, the first true global Koenigsegg. X for experimental, even though the goal was the opposite. Make it steady, make it repeatable, make it pass every test. The chassis grew. The roof lifted a bit. The overhangs changed to survive hard crash hits. Under the skin, the team moved away from a Ford-based block and built their own castings. Stronger, cleaner, and tough enough for the rules. This new engine choice will matter later. Then came the Top Gear moment. They rolled the CCX onto that bumpy airfield and handed over the keys. You know the lap. The car glided around the track with a calm that didn't match the crazy numbers on the spec sheet. It set a production car lap record and held it for years. Long enough to show this wasn't a lucky lap. It told doubters the car could corner, stop, and stay cool. Power is an easy story. Balance is the real test. They passed, but the next problem was even harder. There was one problem. America wants the power and the conscience. Emissions targets were tightening. Christian's answer wasn't to apologize for performance. He made it run cleaner and harder at the same time. Enter the CCXR. Flex fuel before it was cool, tuned to drink E85 and transform. On biofuel, it made 1,018 horsepower, snatching back a Guinness claim in the era of the Veyron. People laughed at flower power. They stopped laughing when the dyno graph hit 4 digits and the CO2 math got friendlier per mile of fire. This was more than a tune. It set a theme. If a cleaner fuel unlocked more power, use it. That idea would one day lead into wild hybrid systems, but here it was pure burn pushed by a different molecule. It also showed a truth about Koenigsegg. They like to build everything they can. When you control your engine maps, hardware, and software, you can chase edges other brands don't even notice. That's what happens when the founder still draws fixes in basic software at midnight, and the team turns them into real parts by morning. But a setback was coming. Meanwhile, Christian's Le Mans dream flickered. The CCGT Racer, a natural aspirated track missile derived from their road car, was ready to go hunting in GT1. Then the rulebook moved. Carbon tubs were out, homologation numbers shot up. Overnight, years of prep stalled. He ate the loss. He redirected the energy. That's the grind nobody sees in the highlight reel, the pivots forced by forces you don't control. On the roadside, the CCX shape grew sharper with additions, special builds, and tighter craftsmanship. Each build taught them how to machine faster, assemble cleaner, and solve trouble before owners even knew it existed. US certification was more than a stamp. It was a lever. Dealers opened doors. Owners spread the word. The small Swedish shop now had access to the biggest market with the toughest critics. And they kept the records coming without letting the paperwork crush the madness. Going legit didn't smooth the sharp edges. It sharpened them. With a global VIN and a cleaner burn, Koenigsegg could chase a new idea. rewrite the power-to-weight rules, and rethink what a transmission could even be. The CCX/CCXR era proved they could take hits, pass tests, and still punch harder than before. From this point on, the real fight began again. To see why the Agera hits differently, start with what Christian decided to fix all at once. Power was there, legitimacy was there. But one thing still felt like a regular supercar. Hit the throttle and the rear would squat. The front would go light. Traction and braking fought a tug of war. Watch how he solved this. He wanted a car that shot forward like a railgun but stayed level, planted, and predictable. So he acted. Agera means to act. Not talk. Not flash concepts. Deliver. From front to back, the bodywork was new. Cleaner cooling paths, smarter pressure zones, and a stance that looked less like a facelift and more like a reset. Beneath that shell came the quiet revolution, the triplex suspension. 2 dampers up front, 2 at the rear. 1 horizontal damper connecting the rear wheels. A 3rd spring that changed everything. This one spring rewrote the rules. Meanwhile, brakes went huge in ceramic. But brakes only matter if the tires stay in contact. That brings us to the second forbidden move. Hollow carbon wheels. Carbon wheels are nothing new. Almost nobody makes them in-house for the street. Metal wheels are strong but heavy where it hurts. At the rim, far from the hub. Hollow carbon slashes unsprung weight and rotational inertia. The car snaps to your hands instead of rolling onto its shoulder. Every kilo saved here multiplies performance. Engineers will tell you, every kilo shaved off a wheel behaves like multiple kilos removed from the car when changing direction. Less rotating mass means brakes work easier, dampers don't panic, tires stick. The Agera used that chain effect. It didn't just go faster, it made insane speed feel sane. Here's where Christian's in-house obsession pays off. If you design your own calipers, wheels, seats, lights, and software, you can tune the whole system as one instrument. Hollow wheels weren't just lighter, they helped aero. Calipers fit perfectly. ABS knew the exact wheel inertia. You can't buy that. This harmony unlocks insane results. On paper, the Agera started at 960 horsepower from a 5.0-liter twin-turbo V8. In practice, it felt stronger because nothing wasted energy. Then came the Agera R. Fill it with E85 and everything sharpens. 1,140 horsepower. But the headline wasn't the number. It was how the car behaves over distance. 0 to 300 miles per hour, and back became a measurable truth. In 21.19 seconds, the car went from dead still to 186 miles per hour and back to stopped. Not with drama, with composure. And it's that calm that hides the chaos. Why does that matter? Anyone can build power. Very few can orchestrate it. Triplex keeps tires honest under max load. Carbon wheels keep suspension calm when everything shakes. Ceramic brakes bite without fade. Aero feeds and releases air precisely. ECU keeps the engine running clean. Stack all that and the result looks like a typo. Now watch how this philosophy spreads. Inside the company, building hollow wheels taught composite layering under real-world stress. Designing calipers forced understanding of seals, heat soak, NVH, competence compounds. The Agera program became a factory for skill, not just cars, and that skill will multiply in the next car. Then the R went hunting records, 0 to 200 miles per hour under 25 seconds. 200 back to 0 in under 8. Verified. Repeatable. Logged. No sci-fi runway needed. Just a clean stretch, proper tires, and a driver trusting the engineering. Agera acted. R proved it right. These details hide the real secret. Those 2 extras, triplex and hollow carbon wheels, look minor. They aren't. They're a hardware philosophy. Refuse the constraint, build the missing piece, and make physics your partner. That mindset set up the next escalation, a car with a power-to-weight ratio that dared the impossible, and the next chapter will blow the rules away. Here's where the story tilts. Power was up, weight was down, but Christian wanted a number nobody had stamped on a road car before. 1 horsepower for every kilogram, not a brochure claim. A scale reading and a dyno pole that matched. 1 to 1 wasn't a nickname. It was target lock, and hitting it would change everything. The trap is simple. More power means more tires, brakes, aero, and cooling. All that adds weight. Add weight, you need more power. The feedback loop eats dreams. The 1-1 broke it with a savage audit. Every gram had to justify its existence. Fastener sticks out? Trim it, or swap it for titanium. Bracket aluminum? Make it carbon. Paint? Optional. Clear-coated carbon weave saved kilos. 1,000-cut diet logged line by line until the math defied belief. Every gram fought for its life. Power didn't come from wishful thinking. The 5-liter twin-turbo V8 was reworked to breathe harder. E85 on tap meant cooler charge temps and higher octane for perfect timing. Output hit the magic figure. Approximately 1,360 horsepower for 1,360 kilograms in track trim. But the number was only the headline. The secret was how it used that power. And it used every single horsepower. Michelin's Cup 2 tires were the other half of the pact. New compound, new construction, street-legal grip close to slick territory. That's what Christian meant when he said tire development keeps moving the ceiling. But rubber without brain is chaos, so Koenigsegg built a traction control system with a response window measured combustion to combustion. Slip over a paint line at full throttle, it would cut torque fast enough that your ears could barely parse the stutter. Hit dry asphalt again, it was back on boost before the thought finished. No drama, no bog, just calibrated violence. The result? A car that looked like science fiction and drove like an argument with gravity. On track, the 1-1 didn't just accelerate like the Agera R. It changed direction with a snap that felt unfair. The hollow carbon wheels took another swing at inertia. The ceramic brakes ate speed in gulps, and the aero pressed the footprint into the surface. A lot of cars talk lap time. The 1-1 was built to draw a line across a circuit record sheet and dare the next 12 months to catch up. Now remember, this is still a road car. Aircon, infotainment, doors that open with theater and close with a seal. The trick wasn't deleting comfort, it was refusing dead weight. Even the exhaust got lighter and smarter to control back pressure and heat. The sum total was a street-legal GT car that, in track mode, hunkered down into something else. An apex predator that could ride curbs without shaking its fillings loose. Then there's the bigger impact. 1-1 wasn't built to chase a single headline. It was a template for how Koenigsegg would attack physics from now on. Audit everything. Build the parts nobody sells. Use active systems to make the tires' life easier. Trust materials most brands treat like art to do hard work. It's a systems car, not a stunt. After 1:1, lap times and speed records didn't feel like separate languages anymore. Straight-line violence and corner speed lived in the same sentence. The physics trapdoor had opened and Koenigsegg didn't fall through it. They climbed. While the 1-1 was bending lap time logic, another hunt was forming. Real top speed, 2 directions, no excuses. A customer in the US said, "Let's do it." Calls stacked, permissions lined up. A long, ruler-straight ribbon of Nevada highway went quiet for 2 days. This run would rewrite physics. It wasn't just bragging, it was proof. Wind tunnel and simulation hitting asphalt with traffic signs, guardrails, and birds that don't sign waivers. Koenigsegg didn't treat it like a joyride. They rehearsed in Sweden first. A wheel was spun on a rig past 500 kilometers per hour. Michelin brought aerospace-level testing to the tires. Then Papenburg in Germany for high-speed shakedowns. Denmark for the short runway torture that accidentally delivered a new -400 record. Because there wasn't enough tarmac to keep going. Every outing was data, not drama. Every test mattered for the final run. The Agera RS used for the record wasn't a unicorn. It was a customer car, prepped with roll cage, sensors for suspension travel, aero loads and temperatures. The wing was set, ride height dialed. Street legal first, then sharpened with engineering, not trickery. The team's rule. Step into speed, measure, adjust, only push when stability spoke first. And stability had a lot to say. Dawn in Nevada, the wind was cross, not friendly. Side gusts whisper bad ideas into any chassis. The driver eased the RS forward, feeling the car through seat and wheel, not the speedometer. First pass, over 400 kilometers per hour. Calm words on the radio. The car didn't wander. Arrow wasn't hunting. Numbers said go. This is where the RS earns its stripes. The shape was never about posing. It was about pressure management. Clean flow to the radiators without opening barn doors. A diffuser that actually diffused. A top-mounted wing that breathed clean, high-energy air, adding load without dirty wake. The triplex rear kept pitch under control so the floor stayed in its aerodynamic window. The carbon wheels took inertia out of the corners, letting the suspension react instead of complain. Back at base, the impact echoed. Predicted top speed, 275. Reality, 277.9 miles per hour. The RS beat it in the real world with crosswind on a public road. That's credibility you can't purchase. It validated the simulation stack, the wind tunnel hours, the obsession with homebrew hardware, calipers, wheels, control logic, speaking the same language. It also moved the goalposts for the entire industry. If a tiny Swedish outfit could do this with a customer car, the old guard's excuses got thin, and the world had to take notice. Inside Koenigsegg, the record wasn't the finish line. It was a green light. The Agera RS proved the philosophy scales. Power through efficiency, stability through systems, speed through honesty. It crowned a decade of iteration and set the tone. More audacity, fewer compromises. A gearbox idea waited in the wings, ready to make shifting instant at any speed. And that idea would change everything. The Kingmaker had done its job. Now the throne was ready for a different kind of monster. And the next chapter was about to rewrite hypercar history. After Nevada, everyone expected a louder sequel. More gears, more wing, more drama. Christian did the opposite. He went quiet. He set out to build a GT that could cross a continent like a private jet, yet accelerate like a railgun. Not softer, but smarter. The shock wasn't the power number, it was how the power arrived, and the way it arrived breaks every expectation. He'd been dailying a Tesla Model S. Instant torque rewired his expectations. No downshift, no spool up, just thought to thrust. But the EV had gaps he couldn't accept. Sound was missing. The connection felt abstract. He wanted that synaptic response. The engine linking to the rear axle through a real, physical connection. That problem statement birthed the Regera. This will change everything you thought about hypercars. First, he changed the cabin. Passed Koenigsegg's bolted engine and gearbox solidly to the tub. You lived inside the machinery, injectors tick, chains whir. The Regera decoupled the powertrain with active mounts. The cabin breathed. You heard rumble and intake snarl, not metallic chatter. Still a Koenigsegg, but this one whispered on the highway and shouted only when asked, and it can shout harder than anything else. Then he deleted the transmission. Forbidden. Nobody asked for a 1,500 plus horsepower Hyper GT with no gears. He built it anyway. Koenigsegg Direct Drive uses 3 electric motors and a hydraulic slip device between engine and axle to replace a multi-speed box. Only faster. At low speed, the car is pure EV. Silent. Instant. Floor it out of a gas station if you want. Above city pace, the V8 locks to the final drive. No gears to select. No ratio gaps. Engine breathes directly into the tires. And this is where physics get wild. Removing a gearbox pulls mass, friction, and heat from the equation. Fewer meshing gears, fewer losses. E-motors aren't decoration. They're torque on demand. Region on lift. Fill in during slip. Creep in a parking garage. Small battery acts as a buffer, not a road trip anchor. This isn't an EV wearing a V8. It's a combustion heart with electric muscles timed to perfection. And that perfection makes acceleration elastic. And yes, it's fast in ways your mind resists. Medium speed to very illegal in one pull, no upshift pause, no boost stumble, rest to 400 kilometers per hour and back in just over 31 seconds. Measured, published, repeatable. Not a party trick. The trick? How uneventful the violence feels. Car stays level. Tires hold shape. Floor doesn't heave. Suspension and aero absorb everything. Chaos controlled, speed mastered. Meanwhile, the GT part wasn't a brochure checkbox. The cabin got more space, more insulation, more calm. You could drive it across countries without feeling like you'd been sparring. Then pull onto a slip road, roll into the throttle, and it would bend time without a downshift drama cue. It's a different flavor of intimidation. No gear change to warn you, just acceleration that compounds. Building it meant writing rules. Controller logic orchestrates engine torque, motor torque, hydraulic slip, and traction in milliseconds. Thermal strategy keeps the battery happy without starving the engine. 3 motors and a V8 mid-engine required airflow that cools without killing drag. In-house habits, calipers, wheels, lamps, software paid off. Integration is the secret you cannot buy. Every detail works together like a single instrument. Critics asked the obvious question, "Won't you miss shifting?" Drivers came back shaking their heads. The instant response filled the gap their nostalgia predicted. The mechanical connection kept the soul intact. The lack of gears simplified the conversation between driver and car into throttle and brake, line and load. It felt like cheating because it removed the delays we're conditioned to interpret as character. Here's the truth. Regera didn't abandon Koenigsegg's madness. It refined it. Fastest experience isn't always the noisiest. Innovation can silence clatter while amplifying sensation. It also opened a door. If no gears feel this alive, adding gears back only makes sense if they do something nobody else can. That thought was already forming. The next car would prove it. 9 ratios behaving like one continuous thought. And the next evolution was already waiting. Regera proved you could delete gears and gain emotion. Jesko wanted to prove the opposite. If you bring gears back, they better feel like they aren't there. That's the mindset behind Lightspeed Transmission. LST, a 9-speed 7-clutch gearbox. It acts less like a transmission and more like a thought translator, and it changes everything about shifting. Here's the truth. Traditional dual-clutch boxes are fast in one direction. Pre-select the next gear, swap clutches, boom, quick. But ask for a non-adjacent jump, 5th to 2nd, 8th to 4th, and they hesitate. LST rips that limit out at the root. Multiple clutches sit ready. Ratios compounded across 3 shafts like a bicycle derailleur that can teleport. Open one clutch, close another. Torque never drops. Any gear to any gear instantly. That's how you get any gear to any gear with the same ferocity as a single upshift. Floor it at highway speed and the system reads your intent, calculates the lowest safe ratio, and executes a multi-gear drop in one seamless event. No ladder down through each step. No stutter. Just the right gear now, like an EV kick, but with the howl and bite of a twin-turbo V8 that lives to reverend. Why chase this? Because short gears unlock the top end of the engine everywhere you drive. In older Koenigsegg's, first could stretch to illegal speeds because shifting meant a dip in acceleration. With LST, first is short, second is shorter than your brain expects, third is a sprint. Shift events are so clean you don't lose thrust. From the seat, it sounds like a superbike, rapid fire climbs through ratios, while the scenery blurs like a warp effect. Under the skin, Jesko is all leverage. The 5-liter V8 gets new turbos breathing through a clever anti-lag solution. Compressed air spools the turbines when exhaust flow isn't there yet, so boost stands up without the usual waiting room. On E85, you're in 1,600 horsepower territory. On pump gas, you're still dealing with numbers that make traction a thesis. That's where geometry and software shake hands. Jesko doesn't make Regera obsolete. It proves Koenigsegg can master both languages. Electric immediacy with no gears, and combustion fury with gears that vanish under your foot. One is synaptic silence, the other mechanical song with 0 delay. Same philosophy. Remove dead zones between intent and response. 2 extremes, 1 heartbeat. Meanwhile, the details still scream Koenigsegg. Hollow carbon wheels cut inertia. Homegrown calipers clamp massive carbon ceramic discs with pedal feel that's human, not digital. The tub is a sculpture of carbon built for stiffness and survivability, born in a hangar that used to launch fighter jets before sunrise. The ghost on the hood isn't decoration, it's a reminder of the standard. Be heard, not always seen, and let the proof roll on 4 tires. Every piece has a reason. Jesko and LST are the logical endpoint of a promise Christian made to himself back when he opened paint and drew a wraparound windshield. If a part doesn't exist, design it. If a rule slows response, rewrite it. If gears are going to return, they have to vanish when you're using them. 9 ratios, 0 delay. That's not a slogan. It's what it feels like, and it sets the stage for the final turn in this story. A 4-seat megacar that borrows the black arts and tries to fit them around a family. The empire didn't grow because money rained down. It grew because every crisis became capability. Start with the fire. Losing the original factory in 2003 wasn't just logistics, it wiped out history. Sketches, early drawings, breadcrumbs of a mind learning to bend metal and math. Most companies would pause, regroup, maybe sell. Christian moved into an ex-Air Force hangar in Engelholm and went back to work under a roof built for jets. The ghost painted on those fighters, heard before dawn, unseen until night, became a badge on the car. Not a gimmick, a standard. Be quiet when others are loud. Be fast when others are careful. Deliver. And that ghost still guides every car today. Survival forced vertical integration. Supplier said no. He translated it into build it. Wheels, calipers, seats, mirrors, lamps, ECUs, software, all homegrown. Not ego. Control. Own the stack. Move faster than purchase orders. Tune brakes to the tire you picked. Shape spokes for airflow you measured. Right traction control that listens combustion to combustion because the engine and brain live in the same house. Messy, expensive, but the only way a tiny shop outmaneuvers giants. Every detail becomes leverage. Scale demanded systems. Hand-modeled art had to become repeatable craft. That's why CCX era's laser scanning mattered. Proof hands could hit tolerances machines later enforced. By Agera RS, the factory behaved like a lab. Subassemblies pre-built to reduce rework. Tolerances tightened. Carbon layups evolved from beautiful to bulletproof. And when the world said, you can't pass US regs, Koenigsegg found the margins and did it anyway. Rules bend, standards don't. The ghost on the hood became culture. Every project started knowing rules would shift. CCGT sidelined by late rule change hurt, but frustration turned into better road cars. Every dead end mined for gain. Every loss funds a win somewhere else. Every setback becomes fuel. Then the empire clicked. Gripen Atelier. A real modern Swedish factory. Not a cathedral to volume, but a precision tool for low-volume, high-complexity assembly. Clean floors, organized cells, ghosts of the hangar flying with it. Survival made physical. Roots laid deep so storms couldn't rip them up, and the factory itself became a supercar. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg pulled off the rarest trick. New models aren't just faster, they're different on purpose. Regera added a quiet shock. Jesko made gears feel like thought. Gemera? A 4-seat megacar. Full-size adults. Dihedral doors that open to a real cabin. Powertrain reads like contraband. Camless 3-cylinder paired with multiple motors. Later options pushing total output to wild territory. Family car as physics experiment. Opposite of safe. Scale used to swing bigger. And yes, it's street legal. While rivals outsource tech, Koenigsegg pulls more in-house. LST isn't parts bin magic. It's engineers designing a gearbox no one else could buy. Direct drive wasn't a kit, it solved a problem after living with a Tesla. Lamp optics, phone apps, cloud connectivity, built under the same roof, not hobbyists. When software team sits 50 meters from brake machinists, the car speaks one language. Every system communicates in real time. Money didn't come easy early on. Government loans came with strings, certification chewed cash, records repaid credibility, but margins stayed thin. Early teen trading wasn't trivia, it was training. Keep cash flowing. Invest in capability, not hype. Let owners become evangelists with cars that outperform the brochure. That's how a 25-person dream became hundreds of specialists with a waitlist of believers. Small team, global impact. The empire isn't posters and hero shots, it's boring excellence. Parts that fit, software that doesn't crash, carbon that doesn't squeak, powertrains that do improbable things without drama. A ghost reminds everyone why they're there. Do the work in silence, then let the numbers speak. Founder still opens paint to mark up CAD because speed of thought beats layers of approval. Every stroke shapes the future. The fire never stopped. It moved from the building into the people. The hangar became a badge. The badge became a promise. The promise became a factory that births machines the big brands wouldn't greenlight in 100 meetings. That's the empire, not the building, the will. And that will drives every car Koenigsegg makes today. Koenigsegg proved that a tiny crew with a brutal obsession for innovation can out-invent brands with stadium budgets. The bottom line is crystal clear. When you own the physics and the craft, you don't compete, you redefine the game. If you want more true stories that save you from the myths and show where the real breakthroughs happen, subscribe now and watch the next one. We'll expose the next expensive legend that doesn't live up.